Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today we are going to be reviewing a couple of upcoming Prism Parade releases. So first up we have the Frostborne Collection, which is a 6-piece lineup of these icy, sparkling winter shimmers, and we have the Festive AF Trio, which I feel like is pretty self-explanatory. So I will talk about the information on when these release, the Black Friday sale that Prism Parade is having at the end of the video after comparisons. For now, let me just show you the swatches. The first polish we have is Shiverscale, and it's described as a lavender-hued lacquer with mesmerizing green shimmer, laced with purple reflective glitter and microfine hollow. This had a beautiful, smooth formula that was really easy to apply, very even coverage, just a little bit sheer on the first coat. I could see this leaning a little bit in the jelly territory, or maybe more of a crelly, since it did build up really nicely into where I got a lot of full coverage. I think the base built up a lot where I don't see a lot of my nail line personally, so I didn't think a third coat was necessary. Obviously, you can always add another if you want to make it even more opaque, but 2 looked good for me and it was very, very sparkly. I loved the colors in this one. Next up we have Ember in the Ice, which is described as a shifty glitter bomb polish that includes pink to blue shimmer, green and blue reflective glitter, and gold holographic glitter. So even though this is completely packed with these micro glitters, it is a much smaller, kind of finer glitter particle, so it's not a typical glitter bomb that you might be used to, or at least when I think of a traditional glitter bomb, it usually has the larger pieces. Either way though, you are going to want to use a peel-off base coat for this. I imagine removal after a few days is going to be very tough, but it did build up so beautifully. It was incredibly full coverage in 1 coat alone and almost fully opaque in just 2. Next we have Winter's Kiss, which is a soft, shimmery polish with triple pink shifting shimmers and tiny flecks of blue laced throughout. I should have known this was going to be a very sheer polish, but I decided to still swatch this on its own and build it up in 3 coats just to show you how it looks. As far as I know, this technically doesn't have a tinted base color, it's just the shimmer color that's coming through, so it kind of gives a soft blue, almost lavender color, but then of course the shimmer being pink makes it lean a little pink in certain lighting, and like a lot of iridescent shimmers, especially the blue kind, it can lean a little yellow or green depending on the angles as well. So I don't know how many people are going to like this as a topper. I have it layered over white and black, and over white you can see a little more of that greenish yellow kind of color, but over black you just primarily get all of the pink. Next up we have Frozen Hollow, which is described as a frostbitten sage with a glowy green shimmer and a microfine hollow glitter. This one doesn't start off as strong. You can see that it is a pretty sheer formula that was a little bit streaky, not very even coverage on the first coat, but building it up in 2 I think looked pretty nice for the most part, where I think if I had shorter nails I would wear this in 2 coats. I think it's just full coverage enough where you might see a hint of nail line, but the base is a little bit on the darker side and the shimmer is just so glowy it's pretty heavily obscured. But since my nails are a little bit longer, I opted to do a 3rd coat, and I just like how this looks a lot more on me. I wasn't sure how much I was gonna love this one because seeing it in the bottle, it didn't really speak to me so much. I feel like the base looks a little gray, but I do love it on. I would say my favorite from the collection is called Ice Queen. This is described as a baby blue lacquer with glacial blue shimmer and microfine holographic glitter. This did have a pretty similar formula to the last polish, where it is very sheer on the first coat. You barely get a wash of that base, but it is so incredibly packed with this glowy shimmer that it just builds up really nicely in 2 coats alone. I'm not scared of a little visible nail line. I think it can add to that really dreamy, whimsical, ethereal vibe, so I like this in 2 coats, but I did end up throwing on a 3rd coat just to show you how much more it builds up. It definitely intensifies the glow of the shimmer, but because this is lighter than the last shade, you still see a little more visible nail line. And rounding out the collection is Moonlit Coronation, which is described as an indigo-based polish filled with an intoxicating pinkish red shimmer and a silver reflective glitter. So I was pretty surprised to read that this was an indigo base because I just see it as a purple, though you will see more of that blue tone coming in on the second coat and especially at more extreme angles. I think because it's just filled with this pinkish red shimmer, it just makes the polish look very purple head on. So it's a little bit of a chameleon and I really liked it. I love this kind of color combination. I think it's so pretty, super beautiful contrast, and obviously love this reflective glitter in here. While it is so packed, it didn't feel super thick or gritty. It had a lovely smooth formula. Moving on to the Festive AF Trio, the first shade we have is Reindeer, which is a clear base polish filled with multiple kinds of gold glitters and gold shimmer. I would say that the gold glitters are pretty uniform in size and shape. They all tend to be on the much smaller size, but as you can see on the first coat alone, it is very densely packed. You still get some of my nail coming through though, so I don't know. I personally wouldn't use this as a topper myself. I think with how dense it is, it just lends itself to being a more full coverage kind of shade, though you would likely need 3 coats, or at least, you know, if your nails are long like mine, but it does look really nice in 2 coats too. Then we have Santa's Side Piece, which I cannot get over the name, but this is described as a red jelly polish with gold shimmer, gold reflective glitter, and gold holographic glitter. So even though this is described as red, I feel like it does have a very strong pink or almost berry sort of undertone to it, which I really loved because I feel like oftentimes reds with a gold shimmer can just lean very orangey. So this was really nice to see. It had a beautiful smooth formula that I found built up opaque enough for me in 2 coats. I think if you look close enough, you can see a hint of nail line, but it just wasn't enough to warrant a 3rd for me. And rounding out the trio is Resting Grinch Face, which is described as a green jelly polish with gold shimmer, gold and green reflective glitter, and gold holographic glitter. So like the last shade, this had another very smooth, very even coverage formula that's just so packed with all of those shimmers and glitters that it pretty much was fully opaque for me in 2 coats. I can't imagine needing a 3rd coat for this, especially if you have shorter nails, but of course, you know, whatever floats your boat. I really love this one. I am always a sucker for a gold shimmer against a green base. For whatever reason, it just feels extra festive to me, but maybe it's because of all of the reflective glitter in here. It's just so sparkly. Moving on to comparisons, we're starting with Shiverscale, and I immediately thought of Holo Taco's Moonlit Rodeo from the Disco Cowboy collection earlier this year. They kind of have a similar vibe in the bottle, but then seeing them on the nail, they just do not compare because Holo Taco is much more opaque with a deeper purple base and a blue shimmer instead of green. Then for Winter's Kiss, this one reminded me of this oldie from Cirque called Azure Dream, which is this pinky to blue shifting iridescent kind of topper, though that one definitely has more of a true clearer base. You can see that Winter's Kiss is a little bit more tinted. This is 2 coats of each, by the way, but even doing 1 coat layered over black, there's just a lot more of that shimmer packed in the Prism Parade shade, so it just stands out and looks more glowy. Then for Frozen Hollow, here's a quick bottle comparison to Beneath the Palms, which is another shimmery green from Prism, but it's a different tone overall. Since Frozen Hollow kind of had a gray looking base to me, I wanted to see this next to Cracked Polish's Murk from Hella Handmade a few months ago, as well as Holo Taco's Alien Infatuation. I would say that Frozen Hollow is probably closer to Crack's Murk, even though it doesn't look like it in the bottle. They do have a very similar super strong green shimmer, but Cracked is a lot more sheer or just in a lighter kind of base, giving it this ethereal vibe. So Frozen Hollow is like the winter version, if that makes sense, while Holo Taco is a much more opaque gray base with a less glowy shimmer. Next for Ice Queen, I wanted to pull out Poolside, which is another light shimmery blue. I think these are almost the same exact base color, but they just obviously have different colored shimmer particles. But Ice Queen did also remind me of Starrely's Dream Logic with that glowy blue sort of color, although Starrily has a slightly darker blue that also shifts to pink shimmer, so it's a little off color-wise. Ice Queen is definitely the most vibrant blue. The shimmer in Poolside is more golden, but again, the base color in that is very similar to Ice Queen, so either way, none of these are dupes. And for Moonlit Coronation, this one immediately reminded me of ILNP's Fairy Dust, which is a purple base with a very fiery copper red shimmer and holographic sparkle. They have a similar vibe where maybe they're cousins, but not close enough to be dupes. Moving on to the trio, we're starting with Reindeer and looking at it next to Fauve's A Christmas Kiss, which I recently reviewed. I feel like they have very similar gold glitter type of bases. The obvious difference is that Fauve is packed with these colorful metallic flakies, so if for whatever reason you are not a fan of that and you just wanted this beautiful gold base, I feel like the Prism is a good alternative. Next, for Santa's side piece, here it is next to Fauve's Home for the Holidays, which is a much brighter red in a more traditional glitter mix kind of formula. And for a red with a gold shimmer, here is ILNP's Secret Santa, which is much brighter obviously, but it can also lean a little bit orangey, so hopefully you can see the pinkiness in Santa's side piece. So that actually made me think of Holo Taco's Private Villa, which is also technically a lot brighter, more of a true hot pinky red color. On the nail, I feel like they are so hard to tell apart, but that's just on camera. In real life, you can see a difference where Holo Taco leans a little bit more pink, the Prism is more red, so there is a slight color difference, but I feel like the finish of both of these look really similar. And lastly, for Resting Grinch Face, here it is next to ILNP's Frankie, which I thought was going to be the closest to a golden shimmer against this shade of green. But Frankie is a magnetic polish, so leaving it unmagnetized has a much more opaque, almost metallic kind of look to it. So these are definitely not close enough to be dupes. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Prism Parade's Frostborne Collection and their Festive AF Trio. So as always, I would love to hear your thoughts on these releases because I thought they were so fun. Starting with the Frostborne Collection, to be completely honest, when I first saw them, I wasn't super excited because they do have this sort of muted kind of wintry feel to them. But then I realized that that's just so fitting for the season, and obviously with how sparkly and shimmery they were, it just adds to that icy cold feeling. So I ended up liking them more than I thought that I would. But there is something about the color palette that just feels kind of unique compared to other winter releases that we've seen. And then for the Festive AF Trio, obviously that's a little bit more in line with what to expect for a holiday release, which I know can definitely be very overdone, like seeing the red, green, and gold all the time, but I can't help but just enjoy seeing them, you know, so maybe those three aren't like the most unique polishes we've ever seen, but they're festive and they're so cute. And overall, the formulas on all of these were just amazing. I felt like they were so smooth to apply, they built up beautifully, so even just objectively speaking, this was just a really nice collection or a couple of collections to swatch. So if you are interested in either of these releases, they're going to be launching on Friday, November 21st at 9 a.m. Central Time, alongside with Prism Parade's Kaleidosale. This is basically their Black Friday sale where everything is 20% off. There's no code needed. And speaking of codes, you can actually stack affiliate codes to get a total of 30% off. So as a reminder, I am an affiliate with Prism Parade, so if you use my code, not only will you save an extra 10% off your order, but it'll also give me a small commission, which helps support me and my channel. As always, a big thank you to all of you who do support me through that. But even if you don't plan on picking anything up, I would love to hear your thoughts about these so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.